remember, these are just our opinions and our personal predictions, people. So
yeah, so don't believe anything Omar says.
So you believe what I say. I would say actually, I want it that way.
You are
my
one
desire.
Believe
When I say I want it.
Don't wanna hear you.
Welcome back to the Unfortunate Diehards podcast. Hashtag number 74. What Senator's legend do we have today?
Oh, I thought you knew. I was
No.
like, is this the intro?
This is the intro.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can do it again if you want.
No, we're keeping it. It's Mark Borvietsky. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Sorry, I had something in my throat. I'm clearing my throat here. I'm Evan. I'm an Auto Senators fan.
Omar the Leafs fan.
I'm Sufyan, a Caps fan. Why'd you put your right fist up like that, bro?
Because we're always Leafs fans.
That's crazy. No, you went more like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Casual.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so today's episode we are going over the Metropolitan. So in today's episode we're going over our Metro standings for this upcoming season. We're going to go over some new additions, some potential rookies that are making the team, and departures, and we'll go over where we think these teams are going to end up and our X Factor player for each team as well. Sufi, since you've done all this hard work, why don't you yap to the people?
We're going to start with the Carolina Hurricanes of the Metropolitan Division. We're going to go in alphabetical order here. We're going to give you a little bit of the team stats from last year, along with their key additions, their key departures, and their current lineup, or what looks like is going to be their current lineup going into the 2024-2025 season. We'll move on then to giving you our prediction of where they'll be in the standings and an X Factor player that we each have for each team. So, starting with the Carolina Hurricanes, for the 2023-2024 record, they had a 52 wins, 23 losses, and 4 OT losses, which was good for second in the Metro Division. Regulation wins, they had 43, which was fourth in the league. They lost in round 2 of the playoffs, still weren't able to get over that playoff hump. 3.38 goals for
Why so much emphasis on the hump?
3.38 goals for per game, which was 8th in the league, and 2.57 goals against per game, which was 4th in the league. 26.9% power play, which was 2nd, and 86.4% PK, which was 1st in the league. And they have an average age of 27.9, so 28 years old.
All right, so for the Carolina Hurricanes, some of the new additions they have are on forward are Jack Roslovic.
Don't forget IR, bro.
Oh, yes, and they have Jesper Fast on IR at the moment.
I know he's not that important, but we have more guys on IR for other teams. I'm just saying. All right, go.
That was so disrespectful.
Go.
I think you're going to interrupt me. So on forward, the new additions for the Carolina Hurricanes are Jack Roslovic, William Carrier, Eric Robinson, and Tyson Jost. So they'll be fighting for mid to lower positions in the lineup, as well as some rookies at forward are Jackson Blake and Bradley Nadeau, fighting for a fourth line role. On defense, they have Shane Gostisbehere coming back, right? Second time?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Even if they're coming back, it's
previous.
Yeah, but if they played there before, yeah.
Sean Walker and Riley Stillman. So a couple other of the potential rookies are Alexander Nikishin and Scott Morrow. The key departures, some heavy hitters here, I won't lie. Jake Gensel, Teuvo Teravainen, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Stefan Nason, Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, Tony DeAngelo, and Antti Ranta.
This is the first team. This is the first team where the word key departures really hits.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot. That's a pretty good lineup right there. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's a here's the thing: there wasn't as many great additions to replace them. I'll be honest. So their lineup: Sveshnikov, Aho, and Jarvis are pretty well set for the first line. After that, it gets pretty dicey. Like I think it's when I made this a couple of weeks ago, I had Jack Jury as their second line center, but now Kotkaniemi's been playing in the second line center role. And then Stahl and Jury are filling out the rest of the centers, so those are pretty set. Nekas. Natchez is most likely going to be in a top six role on the right side, but he is pretty much the only other guy that's kind of solidified in the top six. After that, you're looking at Roslovich, Carrier, Joe, Martinuk, Drury, to all of them to an extent can play in the top six, and also Bradley Nadeau and Jackson Blake are probably going to get a look in the top six as well. More high skilled rookies, and Brendan Lemieux, Eric Robertson are probably going to be fighting for that final fourth line spot. Robinson.
Brother,
I said Robinson.
Buddy Robinson, who played for the Ottawa Senators.
No, of course.
All right. The defense is looking pretty decent. They have Slavin, Burns, Orlov, and Chatfield as their top four, and then new additions Costas Bear and Sean Walker rounding out their top six, with Ryan Stillman as an extra, and we might see a rookie or two in there, Nikishin and Morrow, but it would probably take an injury for that to happen. And then their goaltending is the good but often injured Frederick Anderson, Peter Kochetkov, and then Spencer Martin is starting off in the AHL. Obviously, he's their third string goalie, but he's most likely going to see NHL time because Frederick Anderson is a very injury prone feller. So, predictions first. We'll start with Omer.
Okay, so the Hurricanes for this year, keeping in mind that they kind of lost some good talent up front. The goalie situation, I know,
and on the back end.
Sorry,
they actually lost like a whole good second line,
they did, yeah.
A good defense pairing,
yeah,
and then two other guys that are all right, and then a backup.
Yeah,
Nason was really good for them. He played in their top six.
Yeah.
You want to know who Stefan Nason was drafted by, guys?
Of course. Why was every player
Ottawa?
Bro, you guys.
So keeping all that in mind, I'm not confident in. I'm also not very confident in Freddie Anderson playing a lot / being amazing when he plays. I mean, he'll be good, but he's going to be injured again. So this team has taken a step back for me. I do still have them. I think they're. I think Brindamo's a good coach. They're also team. They do still have a decent enough defense back there. I think they'll finish third in the division.
All right, Evan.
I agree. I do think they still have a talented enough lineup. Like, yes, Burns is very old, but still a good top pair. First line is very good. They're just lacking depth, but they did lose a lot of depth, and I think they have solid enough goalies that this is probably still like a playoff team for sure. But are they going to go anywhere with it? They didn't when they had better lineups, so I'd be kind of surprised if this was the lineup that took them super far in the playoffs. But you never know.
They could be the Washington Capitals of 2018.
They could just be the Washington Capitals and be bad.
You can't say that when we have a cup, bro. Get out of here. Where do you have them finishing?
Third.
Fair enough. I mean, similar things to you guys. I think the thing is, Freddie Anderson, like in 16 games, had 11 goals saved above average, which is like one of the best in the league, which is insane. But then he's very unreliable for playing actual hockey for an extended period of time. So I don't know if Kochetkov can handle a full season on his own if that does happen. But I do have them finishing fourth in the Metro. Will they make the playoffs? I will let you guys know when we do our full predictions at the end. But I do have them fourth in the Metro.
All right, so our next active player for the Carolina Hurricanes for this season, for me, it is Seth Jarvis. I think at 22 years old, I think he needs to step it up with the amount of people they lost in this offseason, especially at forward. I think he had a pretty good season last year. Did he end with what, 70 something, 80 points? What was it last year?
67.
67, sorry, 67
You,
points. So,
I have last year's stats at the bottom there.
oh, you do. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So 67 points last year. I think if he can push, push 80, that would be quite good for Carolina.
I have Kuchi and Kochetkov. I'm picking because if Fergie Henderson is going to be hurt like he always is, he needs to still be a strong goalie with a worse team. And I think every playoff team, or almost all of them, have to have at least a decent goalie. So let's see if he can keep it up. I'm a big X Factor goalie guy.
You are, yes. But that's why
I tell, yeah.
Pick goalies as my X.
Because I think goalies are the most important position.
Both of you actually picked goalies multiple times last time.
Yeah, because we're smart.
So this time I picked goalies.
I only have goalies if I'm like it's really important. Like Kochetkov was definitely considered for this. Kochetkov was definitely considered for this because he might have to play like 60 games. So, I have Marty Necas as my X factor. I think that with the losses of especially Gensel coming in last year, one of the main reasons they added Gensel last year was because someone like Marty Necas wasn't producing, and then Gensel came in and really carried their offense quite a lot with Aho. And with the loss of Teravainen, Stefan Nason, Kuznetsov to an extent, Necas has to become more than like a 50-point player. Like he had that one season where he hit 70 points and then he took a major step back last year. He did have a bit of tough luck because he led the team in shots, but ended up fourth in goals. So I do think that he can potentially work his way up back to maybe 30 goals, 30 assists. We'll see around that. But it's gonna be a lot tougher for him this year playing with his probable line mates are going to be Kotkaniemi and Rostovich, so it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to do so. So he's really going to have to step up his game. All right. Let's move to Columbus.
Blue Jackets. So their record from last year, they went 27 wins, 43 losses, and 12 OT losses, which was 8th in the Metro. 21 regulation wins, which was 29th in the league. They missed the playoffs. 2.85 goals for per game, which was 25th, and 3.63 goals against per game, which was 31st. 15.1% on the power play, which was 32nd, and 76.3% on the PK, which was 26th. They have an average age of 26 years old.
So on forward, some of the key additions or rookies trying to fight for lineup spots are Sean Monahan, James Van Riemsdyk, as well as Gavin Brindley, who is fighting for a fourth line role. Some of the additions on defense are Jordan Harris, I'm going to call him Joe for a second, and Jack Johnson, big return. Then we are also looking at in net, we have Jet Greaves, and some of the key departures are Patrick Laine via trade, Alexander Texier, Alex Nylander, Jake Bean, and Adam Boqvist.
Alex Nylander's in Toronto now.
Who?
Alex Nylander.
Who?
Yeah.
He'll definitely be at least a Marley. We will touch on the fact that this lineup doesn't include Johnny Gaudreau, obviously a big loss for them. Coupled with the fact that they also lost Patrick Laine this year, right before that happened as well. So the lineups, it's looking pretty bare. And one thing I do want to add as well, it did recently come out that the Jackets don't have to reach the cap floor to start the season. They're getting a bit of an exemption, and they can reach the cap floor, I think, in a reasonable time is what they said, whatever that means. So this is definitely not going to be their final lineup. So we're looking at Boone Jenner, Sean Monahan, and Kirill Marchenko. I think his name is Kirill. As their first line. Fantilli is looking to take over permanent second line center spot. And then his wingers are going to be any combination of JVR, Chinikov, Kent Johnson, and Veronikov. Cole Sillinger is looking like a permanent third line center for them at this point at the age of 21. And Justin Danforth, tough guy Olivier are most likely going to be on the fourth line with Sean Corrali. Gavin Brindley is more of a skill forward. I think Columbus could probably use an injection of some offense, so Gavin Brindley could end up getting a look this year. The defense actually isn't terrible. Verinsky, Severson, Provorov, and Jurasek as their top four. Not bad. Jordan Harris coming from Montreal and Eric Goodbranson are probably their bottom pair with Jack Johnson as their extra. The starting goalie job is also up for grabs this year, apparently, according to the GM. Tarasov is going to get an extended look at the starter position. He significantly outplayed Merzlikins last year, but back in Oshawa now. Merzlikins is making $5.4 million, though, so they're definitely going to try to get him to be the starter. And also Jet Greaves has a outside shot at getting some playing time this year. Evan, we'll start with you this time. Where do you have the Blue Jackets?
I have the Columbus Blue Jackets in last place.
Yeah.
Yes. Some very unfortunate losses in Gaudreau, obviously differently than other players, but Laine being gone as well does not help with their offensive production. Probably one of the less threatening offensive cores in the league. Yes, they have Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Anthony, Ronkov, Marchenko, all young, but haven't seen enough really from any of them to be that threatening. Like, I don't see maybe anyone on their team. Like, they could literally have someone end the season leading their team in points with like 50 something, and that wouldn't be that surprising. I could see you guys get mid-teens in goals, maybe low 20s, but not a lot of weapons. Werenski, if he stays healthy, that'll help a lot. But another guy that isn't always healthy. Honestly, I think their top four is really good. I think
it's good, yeah.
Provorov, really like competent top four defenseman. Juracek really young, and Werenski being like a number one guy. That's by far their biggest strength, and maybe that'll help the goalies out. But yeah, I just don't see enough on this team. You know, I talked about the big heavy hitting teams are they have an elite player or multiple very good players at every position, and this is not one of those teams.
Yeah. One of the reasons I had like Carolina kind of fighting for a playoff spot was because other teams got better where they got worse. Columbus was definitely not one of the teams that got better. I do have them as last in the Metro, and I honestly think they're going to be... This is a potentially last place in the league kind of situation. I will say they do have some exciting things, like Fantilli got injured in the latter part of the year last year. I'm kind of interested to see what kind of step he makes this year. What?
Like I said, so exciting. Fantilli got injured.
No, you have to listen to the end of the sentence, bro.
No, I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see how he kind of rebounds from that, and he was really exciting to watch when he was playing, and like they did a good enough job surrounding some of this younger talent with like some experience with Jenner, JBR, Monahan, etc. But we could see this offense being so bad that like Werenski plays 70 games and leads the team in points somehow. That would not be that surprising. But yeah, I have them at 8th, and I'm pretty confident in that. I will say...
Provorov, maybe PP1?
I think Juracek. The Juracek's already PP2. Yeah.
I have Provorov in fantasy.
Yeah.
And
Provorov plays enough where he gets everything else.
I feel like I want Voronkov off my team, but I don't know.
You could pick any of those. You could pick any of the Ovs or Chenkos on this team, and they'll probably put around the same amount of points.
What about the Urs and the Sins?
I don't know. Also in net, it's going to be an interesting thing. I think Merzlikins could be played out of a spot entirely by the end of the year because Tarasov and Greaves are on the up and up. So, and Merzlikins had some. Yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah. But Merzlikins also had some tough comments and stuff last year throughout the season. I will say, I am still rooting for this team. I think with everything that happened in the summer, I do hope that they have like some positivity in the season. Like if this ends up being some sort of Cinderella story, like I wouldn't even be mad because with everything that happened in the off season, if Boone Jenner goes out and scores 40 and Monahan ends up with 80 points, like I'd be happy for him at this point. I honestly, there's nothing I want to see more than Sean Monahan having a good season after what happened. So, Omer, where do you have them?
I think objectively, first, like their first line is really like on a Stanley Cup team. A good third line. Like Monahan coming from third line, pegged to first line. Boone Jenner is probably like a good third liner, like on a good team. And then Marchenko, third liner, like maybe second liner.
Marchenko's got potential, but he's like, yeah. He could be a top 6, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with. I mean, you guys said it all already. They're gonna. I have them at last as well. They're not. They caught in worse. Obviously, with what happened with Goudreau and stuff. But yeah, I do agree with Sufi that if they surprise us, if people like Monahan and stuff have a good season, that would be nice to see. There would be like a nice. I would like some feel good stories coming out of Columbus this year. At least with individual players. With the whole team, because the whole team I don't think has the potential to do that well. But I think if Monahan can have a good season, stuff like that, I think and Monahan's obviously really feeling it. Like he really wanted to play with Goudreau coming into Columbus. And it's going to be a tough way for him to start the season, and it's not going to be easy. So if he has a good season, I'm rooting for him. But yeah, I think the individual victories are what we're looking for on Columbus this year.
Yeah, Evan, who's your X factor for this team?
My X factor is Kent Johnson. I think if they're not going to come last in the Metropolitan Division, they need one of their young, very high overall picks to take a significant step, whether that's Fantilli, Sillinger, or Kent Johnson. And so, Kent Johnson, let's see what you got, buddy. Let's see if you can show that you can be a 60, 65 point guy. Because I think, obviously, a lot of talent there and has the potential for that in the future. And maybe this is the year where some of these guys do take a big step because they have less high-profile players in their lineup, so they have more of an opportunity.
Yep. My X factor is pretty chalk. I'm going to go at Adam Fantilli. I think it's mostly just because St. Louis, bro, my head is gone, man. Columbus they already had the worst power play last year, and now you don't have Goudreau. Bro, I don't even know where that came from. Like, it's not even close.
Wait, no.
Whatever, man.
Columbus Blue Jackets?
Sure. Yeah, you know what? Thank you. You saved me. It's their friggin' day of school, man. My head is mush. Yeah, so I have Fantilli as my X factor, and it's mostly because Blue Jackets had the worst power play last year, and you lose guys like Goudreau, Laine, like it's only gonna get worse. So Fantilli, not only does he need to take a step forward, he also needs to be someone that can become kind of like a power play X factor. Because if this team's going to score goals, it's not going to be a 5-on-5. So the power play is going to be important for him.
Yeah, mine is also Fantilli's reasons. He's 19. He's something that can lead the team offensively. So yeah, it's something this reason.
Great.
All right.
Let's go on to the new.
Bro, if you look at the additions and departures for the Devils, is like the complete flip of the Hurricanes. You don't have much going out, but you have a lot coming in.
All right, the New Jersey Devils from last season, they had a record of 38 wins, 39 losses, and 5 OT losses. They ended 7th in the Metro. 32 regulation wins, which was 16th in the league, and they missed the playoffs. 3.22 goals for per game, which was 12th, and 3.43 goals against per game, which was 26th. 22.5% power play, which was 13th in the league, and 80.7% PK, which was 10th in the league. Their average age is 28 years old, and they have a player on LTIR, which is Luke Hughes.
It's just IR. It's not LTIR for him.
There's a lot of new additions. On forward, they have returning Thomas Tartar Sauce. They have Stefan Nason, Paul Cotter, as well as Kevin LeBanc on a PTO, and he scored twice the other night. So
He's probably making the team, honestly.
I always liked him, to be honest. Like I thought he was.
He's a decent player. Yeah,
a little small, but aren't we all? Not you two. On defense, they have Brendan Dillon, Brett Pesci, as well as Jake Zaboral on a PTO, and Kovacic also fighting for probably that 6th position or 7th defenseman position. In net, more changes. They have, as of last June, Jacob Markstrom traded from the Calgary Flames to the New Jersey Devils, and Michael Hutchinson being the 3rd goalie. Now, some of the key departures are Alexander Holtz to Vegas, Thomas Nosek, Kevin Ball, Brendan Smith, Capo Kakinen, and Akira Schmid.
All right. This is it's going to be interesting where these guys actually line up, but for now, got Meyer, Hughes, and Bratt as their first line. It's been running pretty well in preseason. Tatar, Heischer, and Mercer round out their top 6. Tatar.
Lazar, Kishar, Mercer.
Palat and Tatar are kind of interchangeable in that second left winger spot. Either of them could be in the top 6 with Heischer and Mercer. And then Hall and Lazar round out their center core. Stefan Nason, most likely going to be on the 3rd line after having a good season in Carolina. And then Paul Cotter, Baston, LeBanc, McDermott are all fighting for roster spots. Their defense, with Hughes out, Hughes is probably going to be back end of October, it looks like, or early November. So it's not too much time, but he would probably line up with either Pesci or Hamilton. But for now, Dillon is with Hamilton. Siegenthaler is with Pesci. Pesci is also injured, but he's only missing a week or 2, so I have him in there. Seamus Casey, I forgot to put the color code on him. He is a rookie. But he is most likely going to make the team out of camp, from what it looks like, mostly because of the Luke Hughes injury. And then Zaboral on a PTO, probably not going to make the team, what it looks like, but Kovacevic is also filling in while Pesci is out for the first week or 2. Yes.
Chelsea legend.
Yeah. It's not worse than Pitar and St. Louis Blues, so it's fine.
No, it's easy.
Okay. And their biggest change comes in net. Biggest change for me anyway is in net. You go from not having a starter for the last few years, and you get a bona fide starter in Jacob Markstrom, and a pretty good backup in Jake Allen as well. And Hutchinson, PTO, I don't know if he's going to get signed to their AHL team or not, but I guess we'll see. I'm going first with a prediction for this one. I am very high on this team. I love the way their team is constructed. I think Jack Hughes, with a full healthy season, we're going to see him eclipse 100 points for the first time. I think Timo Meier is looking for a bounce back here as well. Guys like Bratt and Heischer, already consistent. But the additions of Pesci, Dillon, and Markstrom are the biggest things for me. I think Markstrom changes everything for me for this team because you're not looking at 26th in goals against per game. I think that was like one of they were the team other than Ottawa where goaltending affected their team the most. And adding Markstrom to that, I think, is going to shoot them up the standings, and I have them finishing second in the Metropolitan Division. Homer?
I've got actually the same prediction. I've got them finishing second in the division. I like the team they have this year. I think, Meyer's ready for a bounce back. I also think Jack Hughes with a full, healthy season, hopefully, will be huge for the Devils. I like the lineup throughout. Markstrom's massive, but honestly, for me as well, along with all these additions and the way the team is built up right now, I love that they have Sheldon Keefe as their coach.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that, actually.
I love because he's for a team that's young and very offensive. I think he's a great coach. He knows how to hone in on defense in the right way with a team like that, and he knows how to let the offensive guys flow. And like
And also,
in the regular season, like you saw with the Leafs
yeah,
and stuff, like team defense, Leafs under him were always like top five or whatever in the league in team defense during regular season during his time with them. Um, Despite having a worse defense on paper than the New Jersey Devils have right
I
now.
was going to say that, like, adding to your point, like, this team on paper has better defensive players than any of his Toronto teams ever did.
Exactly. So I think his team defense, the way he gets players to commit on playing a full 5-man D, plus also the way he lets offensive guys flow and do their thing. I think this team is a great team for Sheldon Keefe to coach. I think they're going to be second. Yeah, I think they're going to be really good.
Second, as long as their goalies all don't go to the retirement home at the same time because they're old. Yeah, like I said, you need good players in every position, and they've got that going on. And they have, because not all their players are making stupid amounts of money as well. Like they can have, good or decent enough depth where their third line like can move up and down the lineup, like Sufi was saying. Luke Hughes is currently out right now, and the defense core still looks pretty solid. So yeah, I can see this team being very effective, especially with actual goaltending now, and but placing second in the Metropolitan Division.
Fair enough.
Factor.
My X Factor player. My X Factor player for this team is. I was going to say Meyer, but
Zoom's birthday today, guys.
Wow.
unnecessary divergent.
And Adam,
We're doing Ottawa today later. We're doing Ottawa later today, bro. You can talk about his birthday then. So my X Factor on this team is Dougie Hamilton. He has a pretty extensive injury history, but 2 years ago he was like, I think he was like top 5 in Norris voting or something like that. He had like mid 70s in points. He had a great defensive year. And then last year he got hurt like right at the start of the year. So, and when they made the playoffs a couple of years ago, after his like borderline, like close to Norris season, like close to Norris nominee season, he played really friggin' well in the playoffs as well. So I think he's a very important player for them, not only defensively, but also offensively. And, he might not be on the first power play when Hughes comes back, but he is until then. But yeah, just the flow of the team in general, like it pretty much goes through Dougie Hamilton because he's going to play the most minutes on the team. So I have him as my X Factor. Remember?
For me, it's Timo Meyer. I think he's hit over like 70 points once in his career, I think, and that was with the Sharks. I think playing with Jack Hughes, again benefiting from I think a coach in Sheldon Keefe who's good with the young players and with offensive guys. I think he can take another step this year, and it'll be helpful for them if he can hit that 80-point mark at least this season, especially playing on line with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt.
Mine is a goalie.
Of course.
They didn't get saves last year, like at all. Like they had one of the worst goaltending tandems ever. Like Sufi probably may have been able to outperform them with no groin. Like
Me, Oster, and Blanchard.
Yeah, like seriously, who knows? So I think with someone who can make saves, that's literally the difference between a playoff team and not. Like last year, still a ton of, well, obviously they have a lot of new players, but same core, still scored a lot, but we're letting everything in. And so if they can get saves out of this guy, they can jump from being out of the playoffs into like a second, maybe even first. Who knows?
I mean, yeah,
That's just how effective a good goalie can be.
The New York Islanders are next. All right.
Yeah, this might be a boring one.
The New York Islanders ended with a 39 win, 27 loss, and 16 OT loss record, which was third in the Metro. 29 regulation wins, which was 23rd. They lost in round one of the playoffs. 2.99 goals for per game, which was 22nd in the league, and 3.15 goals against per game, which was 18th. They had a 20.4% power play percentage, which was 19th in the league, and 71.5 PK percentage, which was 32nd. Their average age is 28 years old.
So my part's going to be pretty quick here. New additions, Anthony Duclair being slotted into their top six, as well as Tiplakov.
Yeah, let's say that. Tiplakov.
Maxim Tiplakov. Also talented Russian? Ukrainian?
Sounds Russian, but I don't know.
Yeah. He played in the K, so could be any of those.
KHL X forward, playing most likely in the top 6, top 9 for the Islanders. William Dufour also trying to crack the lineup, most likely not. And Sebastian Aho on defense, also a key departure.
Wow, so much happening there. I mean, this lineup isn't that much different than last year, so Duclair and Siplakov are most likely going to join Barzal, Nelson, Horvat, and Palmieri in the top 6. Honestly, it could be any combination of those, but it's just most likely to be the top 6. Anders Lee, starting on the third line this year with Pajot and Holmstrom, he could also find himself in the top 6. And then McLean, Cizikas, Engvall, Fashing, Wallstrom, any combination of that will make the fourth line. Defense, top 4 is looking like Romanov, Dobson, Pellick, and Pollock. Pretty consistent with their last couple of years. And then Riley and Mayfield on their bottom pair with Bolduc as a extra. And then Sorokin and Varlamov are their goalies right now. Sorokin is injured currently. He is working towards a return, but he may miss a couple of weeks to start the season. Homer?
All right, we're back at me here. So the Islanders, they're the same team as last year, honestly, without Sorokin for a couple of weeks. So I don't think they're going to end in, just because obviously New Jersey's gotten better. I think I'm giving New Jersey a division spot. I don't think the Islanders are going to end in a division spot. I think they'll fight for a wild card this year. I have them 4th in the Metro, because I think Sorokin will play an impact on them. I mean, they've still got Barzal, they've got Horvat, they've got Nelson. I don't think they're terrible. I just don't think they're going to be a divisional spot.
So, I think they have a pretty solid defense core, very good goalie tandem, and they have a lot of consistency throughout their lineup. Like, these guys have been together for a while. Not huge changes at all, really, but I do think it's a solid team. It's not crazy, but I think it's good enough for 4th in the division as well.
We're the exact same so far. On every one. Look at that. I didn't think that was.
Yeah, I'm foreseeing one glaring difference between our standings. So I have the Islanders finishing 5th. It's just, well, as to who we have in the playoffs versus don't.
That could be 2 Metro playoff teams.
Fair enough. I have them finishing 5th, and I mean, there's just no like real superstar Barzal over his career. I think we've been waiting for him to be this megastar where he looks like he has a skill to be a 100-point player, but I think at 27 years old we can safely assume that he's not that guy that can like take over a team and be a 100-point player. But he's still like a good first line 80-point guy. And then after that, you know, you have a bunch of guys that are 70-point forwards, a couple of them, and then a bunch of like 50-point guys. So the offense doesn't really do much for me. Defense is good. Goaltending is great. I have this team finishing 5th, and I think they're just going to be as mid as they usually are. And if they make the playoffs, they could cause havoc because they're the Islanders.
Yeah.
All right.
Homer?
My X factor is Barzell. At 27, making 9.1 mil, I think you got to show up as some kind of a superstar for this team. If you're not a superstar in the classic sense, then you got to at least, you got to. I mean, he's had some good seasons, so I don't think he can't be a productive 90-plus point player. I think he can be a 90-plus point player. That's what they need because they need offense. So that's what I'm going for. They're covered. Honestly, they're covered on D and in goal. So offense is what they need.
I am going to go with Bo Horvat. I think he's had a very high goal scoring couple seasons. And if they want to make the playoffs, they need another guy other than Barzell getting probably 75, 80 plus points. And Horvat can do that. He can score 40 goals. He's shown that. He just needs to do it again. And yeah, just kind of run that second line and, so Barzell doesn't always necessarily have to get the hardest matchups if that other line is running just as good as the first line. So Bo Horvat for me needs to do a lot for this team offensively.
I mean, I agree with both of those. I'm going to try to stay off of offense because I think it's pretty obvious that their need is offense. But I'm going to go to a guy on defense that's a bit volatile in Alex Romanov. He's had some good stretches, some bad stretches. I think that with him getting so many minutes playing next to Dobson, it's important that he remains a little more consistent. I think at 24, you got to kind of make that turn now towards being a consistent top 4 guy because they kind of need it now because they don't really have the defensive depth that they used to. They have a good defense, but they don't have anyone that can replace Romanov if he falters. So I think the fact that he's playing with the best defenseman on their team, one of the best defensemen in the league, it is important that Romanov can at least carry himself well enough to play with Dobson for the 25 minutes that Dobson does play. So he is my X factor for the Islanders.
On to the rivals, New York Rangers. They had a record last year of 55 wins, 23 losses, and 4 OT losses, which was first in the Metro. 43 regulation wins, which was third. They lost in round 3 of the playoffs to the Florida Panthers. 3.39 goals for per game, and 2.76 goals against per game, which was 7th in the league as well. Power play percentage of 26.4%, which was third, and 84.5% PK, which was also third. So that's a very consistent team. And average age of 27 years old. Currently, they have Lindgren on IR.
So for new additions on forward, they have Riley Smith as well as Sam Carrick. People fighting for spots are Edstrom, Hoffman, and Matt Rempe. Everyone knows him. As well as some key departures, being Alex Wenberg, Jack Roslovic, Barclay Goudreau, Blake Wheeler, and Eric Gustafson. So quite a few all-right forwards leaving the team. So we'll see how that works out for them.
And we'll start with you with the... Oh, sorry. My bad.
This team is largely the same in terms of their lineup. The major change in their top 6 is Riley Smith. He's replacing, I guess, Barclay Goudreau. I think they tried Kako and Goudreau in the top 6 last year. It didn't really work out. So adding Riley Smith to align with Zibanejad and Kreider looks like it's working out pretty well in preseason. Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere is looking to be their first line. The third line is also pretty set in Cully, Hedel, and Kako. And then their fourth line could be any combination of Brodzinski, Carrick, Rempe, Ottman, Edstrom, and VC. It could be any of them. VC is injured, so probably not him for now. And yeah, on defense, Ryan Lindgren is usually with Adam Fox, but he is injured once again. So the most likely candidate to fill that spot with Fox is Keandre Miller. Zach Jones and Jacob Trouba round out the top four. And then Braden Schneider is definitely on the third pair. Ruedel and Mackey are kind of fighting for that last spot. There's also some other players that are kind of fighting for that spot in training camp, but Lindgren is probably going to miss around a month. And then their goalies, same as last year, Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick is not 28 years old. He is 38 years old. There we go. All right. Evan?
Okay, we're pointing out things that are wrong in this. I didn't, whatever.
All right, Evan, your prediction for the Rangers.
I have the New York Rangers as a team with an elite player in every position, with solid depth, were in top 7 in almost every category last year. They're first in the Metro. Enough said.
Sufi?
I have them first as well. I'm not entirely confident in it. Their 5-on-5 play, for whatever reason, is still not ideal, but they do enough to get by. And the other concern for me is also a bit on their D-core with Ryan Lindgren being hurt and the depth options not being that great. So I'm curious to see what happens in that regard. But do I see Artemi Panarin scoring 49 goals again? No. But I do see Zibanejad having a bit of a bounce back, so I think the scoring will even out, and the power play is going to be as lethal as it always is. So I have them finishing first, though I could definitely see that not happening.
I also saw them finishing first. I don't think there is any question about it in my mind. There's no question about it.
Damn.
It's going to be. It's like it's a lock.
I don't have it as a lock, bro.
They have Panarin. They have they've got elite players everywhere. I have them first. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said.
You know what's crazy? Panarin, if you were to just cover part of the screen, makes $628,000 a year. That's a ton of money. That's so much money. That is already easily top percent in the world.
What?
But then it's oh wait, $11,642,000 a year. That's crazy. You ever think about that? You're I wonder what these if they get paid weekly, for example. It's weekly. I'm just getting.
I mean, Austin Matthews pretty much just gets pointed. Matthews just gets paid in signing bonuses, so he pretty much gets all of his money on August or July 1st.
Yeah.
Where he just gets $13 million to his bank account.
Let's say if it was a weekly pay, every Wednesday, or I guess bi-weekly, so every second Wednesday, just got $538,000 deposited in your bank account if you're Leon Draisaitl.
Well, I mean, not that.
But Draisaitl again he's all bonus laden, right? So he's gonna on July 1st he's gonna get $13 million. And then 1 million.
I know that.
Yeah.
But still hundreds of thousands of dollars. Often. Even if it's tens of thousands of dollars every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew doesn't get 13 million in his account. He gets 7 or 8 mil.
Yeah, that's a signing bonus.
He probably has a Canadian account, so really, if the conversion, it might be a little bit higher. It's USD.
Okay, so yes, true, USD. All right. Okay.
All right, Evan. Who's your X Factor?
X Factor.
My X Factor is, I don't even know, because I feel like this team's just going to be good. So I said Igor.
Of course you did.
Igor's good. Igor's been good. He's going to be good. And you know what? I like goalies. That's why me and Sufi are friends.
All right.
I didn't really have much of a reason. I didn't think of I feel like they're going to be first, pretty most likely. So I could have picked Capo Caco or Lafreniere, but I like goalies.
I like the Rangers too.
And it's a contract year, so he wants that 10 million plus that he wants, he's got to earn it.
Sophie?
Yeah. I mean, unlike you guys, I'm not that confident at first. So the major question for me is on defense.
That's because he's like, maybe Washington gets first.
No. My major question for them is on defense, which is why like I was contemplating the Devils in first over them. Either way, I mean, I have them in first, but Keandre Miller is my X factor, and it's mostly because with Lindgren being out, their top four takes a big hit. And like Trouba had a bad year. Zach Jones is pretty much a rookie. Ruedel is a bottom six guy or bottom pair guy. Braden Schneider's pretty good. But then you're looking at like you're looking at guys that have played in the AHL for the majority of their careers being like in the bottom three defense spots. So I think that Keandre Miller is going to have to step up and kind of be like, he's really going to have to mold himself into more of a top pairing guy with Adam Fox and kind of fill the void that Ryan Lindgren leaves. It's not imperative to the team's success because they're a pretty good team in general, but I think the fact that their defensive depth is bad, I think that Miller needs to kind of step up and take over. Homer?
For me, it's Lafreniere. You would think that a first overall pick by this time in his career should be able to get 60 plus points on this team. So if he does that this year, that would be very helpful for them, considering it seems like the majority on this podcast don't believe Panarin's going to perform the same way. So they could use some of that coming out of Lafreniere now. So if he can hit 60 plus points like a first overall pick should on a top line on a first in the div team, I feel like it would help them.
He just went from 30 goals to 50. Like,
yeah, at 32. So it's just the goals. I think the assists are pretty much going to be the same.
Yeah.
I knew Lafreniere was going to be your X factor. That's mostly because you hate him.
I don't hate him. I just don't think he was.
You just don't like him.
Like,
It is what it is, bud. All right, let's move on to Philly.
Team stats from last year: 38 wins, 33 losses, and 3 OT losses, which was 6th in the Metro. 30 regulation wins, which was 2nd in the league. What? Okay. They missed the playoffs.
Oh, that's wrong.
Okay, I was reading that. 22nd in the league. They missed the playoffs. 3.82 goals for per game, which was 27th. 3.15 goals against per game, which was 18th. 12.1 power play percentage, which was 32nd. 83.4 PK percentage, which was 4th, surprisingly. And 26 is their average age, and they have Ellis on LTIR.
no new additions. All right, so potential rookies that are going to make the team or are definitely going to make the team. Matvei Michkov, probably in the top 6. He's close. Abols. Rodrigo Abols.
I just like those.
Maybe fourth line. Oh, good for him. Then in goal, they have Fedotov as well as Makiniemi on a PTO. Key departures being Ryan Johansson, a little sus there. Dennis Gurionov, Cam Atkinson, and Mark Stahl.
All right. Their forward core is looking pretty similar to last year. The biggest addition being Michkov. He looks like he's playing with Frost and Tippett, and Forrester, Couturier, and Konechny are going to be the first line once again. Pretty good third line in Farabee, Lawton, and Brink. And then Kate's, is it Poling or Paling? I don't know how to actually say that. And Garnet Hathaway is their fourth line. It's honestly pretty similar forward core to last year. And then Delory, Abols, and Lixell are fighting for spots. Their defense, Cam York and Travis Sanheim, are their top pair from last year, and they put up pretty good numbers themselves. Nick Seeler and Jamie Drysdale as their second pair, and then Zamula and Ristolainen as their bottom pair, with Eric Johnson as an extra. Ivan Fedotov is going to be in his first full season, and he's probably going to split time with Ersson, who is their starter started last year after Carter Hart got exiled from the NHL. I'm starting with this team. I have them once again finishing 6th in the Metro. It is mostly because there's a team for me that got worse. So I originally was going to have them at 7th, but I have them in 6th, and it is mostly because I think their power play is definitely going to get better with Michkov. It also is going to just get better pretty much because it can't be worse than last year. I mean, it could be 0, I guess, but 12 is pretty bad. Also, Jamie Drysdale being healthy, their top 4 is actually not terrible. Cam York and Sanheim are a very good pair. Sealer is pretty underrated in my opinion, and I think having Fedotov at least playing gives Ersson a break. He played more games than he probably should have last year. So splitting time I think will be better for him performance-wise. So I have them finishing 6th. Omer?
I also have them finishing 6th. Also because I would have had them lower, except I think another team got worse. So, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think they will get a little bit better on the power play and stuff, obviously with Mitchkov. But yeah, nothing standing out on this team for me to see any massive improvements.
I have the Philadelphia Flyers in 7th. I think there's going to be a few teams that are close in points. Flyers being one of them. I think they actually don't have that bad of a team. Like, the forward core is really not bad in general. Like, it's not great, but it's not bad. I think they have decent depth on forward. Defense isn't super strong, but they have a few like competent guys. Goaltending is probably where it's a little dicey. But yeah, you have Torts. Anything's possible with Torts. You could win 73 one-goal games just because you're shooting and hitting harder than everyone else. Yeah, I have them 7.
My X Factor player is Michkov. Pretty standard. I think that because their power play was so bad, I think that also just affected their goal scoring in general. So if they can have like a mid-tier power play, it's going to push their goals per game into a more acceptable level and not in the late 20s like it was. But yeah, he needs to be as good as a rookie can be for this team to be successful. So I have Michkov.
Mine is also Michkov. Pretty standard. They need a guy to perform well there. Again, this is not a team that's going for a playoff spot. I mean, sure, they can say they're going for a playoff spot, but this is not a team that's going to make the playoffs or even be close, in my opinion. So, individual performances.
They were close last year.
Were they close?
Yeah, did you not remember? It was they got out on the last day because Torts pulled the goalie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sure, they could come close. But anyway, I don't think this is a team that's going to make it personally. So, I'm going to see Michkov as hopefully a young star about to make a difference.
Mine is Sean Couturier. He has been riddled with injuries over the past few seasons. Is a very talented player and can be a first-line center, really. But for them to have any sort of shot, with their forward core being the strong point, he needs to be healthy and he needs to produce at both ends of the ice like he can. Because really their team's not that strong in other positions, so he needs to be the player on this team that he can do whatever Torts asks.
The Pittsburgh Penguins from last year, they won 38 wins, 32 losses, 12 OT losses, which was 5th in the Metro. They ended up with 32 regulation wins, which was 17th, and they missed the playoffs. 3.09 goals for per game, which was 18th. 3.02 goals against per game, which was 13th. 15.3 power play percentage, which was 30th. 80.7 PK percentage, which was 11th, at average age of 29 years old. They have Nito on LTIR. Nieto.
Yeah.
So, new additions to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have Anthony Beauvillier, as well as Kevin Hayes, Cody Glass, Blake Lizotte, and McGroarty fighting for a position as well. He wants to be on an NHL team. On defense, they have Matt Grzelcyk as well as Sebastian Aho. Then they also have Ivany or St. Ivany as well as Blomqvist and Nets fighting for positions as well. Key departures being Riley Smith, Jeff Carter retired, and Pierre-Olivier Joseph.
Okay. Bolivier is probably going to take the left wing spot with Crosby and Rust this year, with Bunting and Malkin filling out the top six. Puljujärvi is looking decent in camp. I think that he is most likely going to be in the third line with Hayes and Cody Glass, but it kind of remains to be seen. O'Connor, Eller, and Puustinen is likely to be fourth line. But on that third line left wing spot, we're looking at Puljujärvi, Achari, and McGroarty as the competing players. Blake Lizotte is injured, otherwise he probably would be on the fourth line instead of Puustinen. The top four defense is looking like Graves, Carlson, with Matt Grzelcyk and Chris Letang running out the top four. And then Marcus Peterson is going to be definitely in the lineup with Aho, Ryan Shea, and Jack St. Ivany fighting for that sixth spot. Tristan Jarry is the outright starter. Nedeljkovic is currently injured, so Blomqvist is probably going to get an extended look as backup. Omer?
All right, I've got the Penguins ending seventh. This team is just another year older with the same core players. Crosby's a year older, Malkin's a year older, Carlson's a year older, Letang's a year older, Genso's gone, Brian Rust is on your first line. I don't know. It's not doing it for me. I don't think. I thought Dubas was going to do something this offseason to get them in a playoff position again, but they didn't do anything. So I'm not there. For me, they got worse. I think Philly. I think Philly overtakes them. They're going to end seventh.
I think Pittsburgh is sure not great, but I still do think they have like big names and people who still can have good seasons. So I have them finishing in sixth. They were between fifth and sixth for me. I thought those two teams are sort of around the same sort of area, but I
hard disagree.
So they still have Crosby. He can put up 100 points, and it wouldn't surprise me. The guy doesn't age. What a stallion. And they have some people in the top six that can do decent jobs. They'll get like 50, 60 points. Malkin, we'll see what we get out of him. I feel like he's showing age a little bit more than these other guys. I think Letang is also showing a bit more age. I don't think Carlson's ever going to be a 100-point defenseman again, but I can totally see him getting in the 70s. Jarry is a starting goalie and has had a few good seasons. So, yeah, I see them doing all right, but I don't see them, probably in a positional spot or anything like that.
I have Pittsburgh in seventh. I would have had them in eighth if Columbus wasn't so bad. I think Crosby, sure, he played pretty much as well as you possibly can at his age, but it didn't really do much for them. Malkin, Letang, and Carlson are all showing signs of aging.
Not Carlson.
Carlson, especially last year, took a major step back, and I think it's not necessarily because of.
It really is hard.
You had Pittsburgh and Washington close, which I hard disagree with.
You don't know what team you have there.
But it's the only team left. Carlson, the point total got hurt mostly because he has to share playing time with Chris Letang. I think him playing like a million minutes a night in the Sharks definitely helped him score 100 points that year. So I don't think his skill necessarily dropped off offensively that much. I think that the major issue here is that your two best defensemen are both aging offensive defensemen. So in turn, your team defensively is going to suck. And Tristan Jarry has been a fairly inconsistent starter over his career. So I do not have hope for this team. Bear in mind, I also do not like this team, but I'm usually pretty pretty realistic with their expectations.
No. Who likes his team, Sufi?
Oh yeah.
My sister.
That's why Sufi hates them.
My X factor for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Evgeny Malkin. I think they're at his age right now. He's really struggling to, be the player or be anywhere near the player he once was. I think Crosby's been okay. Crosby's obviously been great actually last season. I think Malkin struggled. He's had his injuries and stuff too, so that plays a part in it. But if this team wants to do anything, literally anything, or potentially make the playoffs, they can't have Malkin not doing anything. They need Malkin.
Mine is Chris Letang. I think he's the one that has regressed the most from his peak. And if he's going to be in the top 4 and playing like 25 minutes a night, the most on the team, he has to be in really good shape and contribute on both ends of the ice. And he's French.
And I'm going to go with Tristan Jarry.
Aww.
Mostly because this team sucks defensively. So if they have any chance at making the playoffs, it's going to be through good goaltending. So yeah, Tristan Jarry is my X factor.
Now we've got yours truly, the final team of the Metro, Sufi's Washington Capitals. All right, last year they had a record of 40 wins, 31 losses, 11 OT losses, which was 4th in the Metro. They had 32 regulation wins, which was 18th. They lost in round 1 of the playoffs. Did they get swept?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got swept in round 1 of the playoffs.
Of course you did.
2.63 goals for per game, which was 28th, and 3.07 goals against per game, which was 16th. 20.6 power play percentage, which was 18th, and 79 PK percentage, which was 19th. And they have an average age of 27. They've got Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie on LTIR.
There is a lot of new additions on this team, and it's a lot of good players. So on forward, they have Pierre-Luc Dubois, they have Andrew Mangiapane, eat the bread, Duhaime, as well as Radish, Varana, Kristal, Miroshichenko, all fighting for
Rosnichenko.
as well. Miranda's on a PTO. Kristal, Miroshichenko are rookies. On defense, they have Jacob Chikrin as well as Matt Roy. In goal, they also have Logan Thompson and Clay Stevenson as a backup and potential third string. And then key departures being Max Pacioretty, Nicholas Aguilar, and Darcy Kemper.
All right. I'm happy we've gotten to this point. It takes way too long. This lineup is looking like it makes me very happy to see. Ovechkin, Strome, Mangiapane is most likely going to be the first line, with McMichael, Dubois, and Wilson playing together in preseason as well. The third line is the biggest question right now in terms of who's actually going to play there. Lapierre and Protas are pretty well locked in that spot. But the third line left wing spot is going to be either going to be Milano, Varana, Crystal, or Moroznichenko. And then Duhaime, Dowd, and Radish has been together all preseason as the fourth line. Defense, we have Chikrin, Carlson, and Sandin and Roy as our top 4, with Farivari and TVR rounding out the top 6. Although Sandin has played some with TVR, with Farivari and Roy, so that might change as well. Alexiev, Bear, and also not listed is Dylan McElrath. Those guys are kind of hanging around fighting for 7th defenseman spots. Lindgren and Thompson are going to be splitting time in net. Clay Stevenson is our third string. Evan.
All right, Evan, where do you have the Washington Capitals? One spot remaining.
I personally have the Washington Capitals in 5th. They are probably one of the most improved teams. But the reason I have them in 5th is because I feel like everyone on their team, I feel like their best players will have in the 60 range, 60 something points, maybe 70. Like, I see Mangiapane being like a second liner, Dubois, Strome, Wilson, all second liners. Ovechkin is like 40. The top D pairing, Chikrin, Carlson, that's a lot of turnovers. It is a lot of offense as well. But I do think they have good players in every position and depth at position. So I do think they will be a competitive team. I just don't know if they have enough game breakers compared to other teams or people in their prime. Like, they may have some games where some guys go crazy, but they don't have like a Panarin. They don't have like a Adam Fox, just comparing it to a different Metro team. So I do think they'll be good. And so I was close. They could have been between 4 to 6 for me, any one of those spots. But I didn't put them 6th because I didn't want Sufi to yell at me, and I put them 4th because I didn't want to be biased for Sufi. So I put them right in the middle of where I think they could land.
Oh, don't worry. I already took the Sens out of playoffs after this.
Well, they're still potentially.
I
haven't said anything yet.
I have the Caps in 3rd in a divisional spot. My big reasoning here, Lindgren and Thompson are the biggest, with the additions of Chikrin and Roy. Chikrin, Loki had a very good year last year. I think that his defensive play needs to regress back to what it was in Arizona rather than what it was in Ottawa. I think playing with Shabbat does that to you sometimes. John Carlson had a very good year last year defensively. And I think with age, he's just gotten better with defense. So I think that he's going to help Chikrin out a lot in that regard. We have a fully healthy Sandin going into the season, which is helpful as well. Matt Roy being a very good defensive defenseman coming into our team is, I think, one of our most underrated additions. And the offense is deep. I think that's the thing for me. Ovechkin, I don't see him scoring 8 goals in the first half like he did last year. So
7?
I also don't see him having I also don't see him having 22 goals in 30 games like he did after the All-Star break. So I think he's going to be a little bit more consistent with the team being better around him. And I could see him having more goals than he did last year for sure. But yeah, I have them at 3rd. Omer?
I have them at 5th. Like Evan, for me, they were interchangeable between 4th and 5th. I ended up putting them at 5th. I gave the Islanders the edge, but I think the Capitals potentially, or I think for sure, they had the best off season in the NHL. And I think they made the right choice by, they had a surprise season last year by making the playoffs, and then they're like, hey, look, we still have something, and then they load it up, and I love that. So I think this is going to be a good team. This is going to be a competitive team. I do agree with Evan that they don't have like those game breakers like some of the other Metro teams, which may hurt them. And the other thing that puts me at them at 5th for me and not in the 4th or 3rd spot is because some of the guys that they get, like maybe not some, but specifically Dubois, like I want to see what we get from him first. I don't know what we get out of Dubois. I think we have an idea of what we could get out of Dubois, but we don't know if we're going to get that out of him. So PLD is a question mark for me right now in terms of his performance.
But to back Sufi up, he was saying for a while, and everyone knew it, the Capitals were old. They had, and yes, Oshie Backstrom being on LTIR, I guess helps.
Yeah.
Sort of, but they got younger. No one they added is even 30 years old. Every single player is younger than that, and they added people at every position. And people who've played NHL games and have shown that they can play in the NHL. So,
and they've got a strong top 6.
Yeah, so in Sufi's defense, this team did improve a lot and got younger, which was probably, for them, the biggest thing that they needed to do.
Yeah. All right, Evan, your X Factor.
All right, Evan, who's your X Factor?
Capitals.
My X Factor is Alexander Ovechkin. I was talking about game breakers. He's obviously, yes, a little old, but the biggest game breaker on this roster, in my opinion, still. He could score 50 goals this year, and I would not be totally shocked. Like, I could totally see him getting the 42 to pass. And so if they are going to have someone be a game breaker, maybe it's Carlson, maybe it's one of the goalies. But for me, I would love to see that guy behind Sufi light it up and be a game breaker consistently in the NHL once again.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure I know where Omer's going, so I'm going to avoid him. My game breaker, my X factor is Tom Wilson. He's coming off a down year, mostly because of injury. So I'd love for him to push 60 points this year. I think he has the potential. He's had a 50-point season in his career, I'm pretty sure. So I think that with him being on the first power play permanently, with Oshie being out and being healthy, he's a really... We know what we get from him in terms of the energy department and defensively being one of our best penalty killers, but we're going to need an offensive push from him this year, especially considering he's playing with two guys that, someone in Dubois, where Dubois is going to get ice time like he didn't get in LA. So him playing in the top six with Wilson, I think Wilson playing well is pretty imperative to Dubois playing well as well. So I think Tom Wilson is going to have to be the guy that kind of pushes Dubois into the next level that we kind of want to see from him. So yeah, he is my X factor.
All right. For me, yep, I'm sure you guessed it. It's PLD. Talked about him in the beginning. There's question marks around him. Is he going to perform like he does? I think he's after a few years of his career of kind of going through teams. I think he's in a position on a team right now where he has the opportunity to really be successful here. He's second line center potentially on a pretty good team that's probably going to make the playoffs. I think this is his time to kind of bring it up a notch. So he's my X factor to see if he performs like he should perform. Because they'll need him to perform that, actually. Yeah.
The thing is, unlike in LA, we don't really have any other option. Like, he has to. So
yeah,
like LA, he got buried behind Kopitar and Danault.
Yeah.
He's definitely not going to end up on our third line. So
yeah.
In
8th place in the Metro, I have Columbus Blue Jackets.
I also have the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I also have the Blue Jackets.
In 7th place, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I have the Philadelphia Flyers.
I have the Penguins.
In 6th place, I have the Philadelphia Flyers.
I have the Penguins.
I have the Flyers.
In 5th place, I have the Washington Capitals making the playoffs.
In 5th place, I have the Washington Capitals missing the playoffs.
In 5th place, I have the Islanders missing the playoffs.
In 4th place, I have the New York Islanders.
In 4th place, I have the New York Islanders making the playoffs.
In 4th place, I have the Hurricanes.
Okay.
I have them making playoffs.
Yeah. In 3rd place, I have the Carolina Hurricanes.
I also have the Carolina Hurricanes.
I have the Caps.
In 2nd place, I have the New Jersey Devils.
I have the New Jersey Devils.
And I have the New Jersey Devils.
And in 1st place, I have the New York Rangers.
Rangers.
So those were our 2024-2025 Metro Division rankings. Let us know what you think. Let us know your rankings. We'll have the Atlantic rankings for you shortly as well. In the meantime, please listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM. Check us out on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Twitter at The Unfortunate Diehards. And we'll see you next time.